And welcome to this edition of Trader Talk TV. Today I've got Samar in the office from TikTok. Hello, Samar.
Hi, lovely to be here. Thank you for having me, Kieran.
Great, pleasure to have you. Today we're talking about closing the loop in a video-first platform, and Samar's coming to talk about how TikTok is approaching this. Samar, it's great to have you in the office because obviously TikTok is the zeitgeist of companies at the minute. But you know, if people just to explain what you do at TikTok and maybe give an overview of the company. Probably everybody knows what TikTok is at this stage, but it'd be interesting to get your view.
Yes, certainly. Thanks for having me, Kieran. So my name is Samar and I lead the product marketing team for our commerce advertising solutions. So similar to many of the other platforms, we monetize via advertising, and we are the team in charge of building, conceiving, and taking to market our advertising solutions that are aimed specifically at commerce and retail vertical.
Yeah, so obviously TikTok has been sort of like one of the go-to sort of video-first platforms in the world right now, but it's always kind of been viewed as a top of the funnel sort of entity as opposed to full funnel. You are working, and your colleagues working hard on that problem within TikTok. Talk through about how you're approaching this problem, because we're going to talk today about TikTok approach and the full joining upper funnel with bottom funnel. So talk a little bit about that with us today, if you can, Simon.
Yeah, certainly. Let's do that. So you're right. At the very top, as a video-first platform or a video-only platform even, it is intuitive that TikTok would perform really well for upper funnel objectives. One of the initial hashtags that came up on TikTok in the early days was the hashtag as seen on TikTok, which is the new as seen on TV. And so certainly that has been the more intuitive approach to TikTok on the part of brands and agencies in the early days. However, TikTok obviously also performs across the board, across the funnel. And that is one of the main areas, one of the main strategies that we're currently working on in order to identify all of the opportunities, not just in terms of table stakes, in terms of the foundations that are needed for a platform to have in order to drive performance budgets, such as tracking and measurement and attribution and all of the foundations required in order to be able to attribute your results, but also how to build on our strengths. TikTok is a very unique platform. It would be the first really strong video platform driving performance, or at least with the objective of driving performance. And so building on our strengths and on the current organic behavior that we're seeing and the phenomena that happen on the platform, and being able to build a product on top of that is how we're currently thinking about our lower funnel product.
So I think it'd be useful for the viewers to see, let's track the user journey through TikTok, starting at the top, right, and making its way, him or her, making their way down to an outcome at the bottom of the funnel. So let's talk. Let's get that out.
Sure, certainly, let's do that. So in order to do this, we're going to take a specific example. That is one of the earliest examples, the one that really triggered a really company-wide hunt for the identification and the structuring of what we identified as an organic phenomenon that was happening on the platform. And the example is the one of Little Moons. Little Moons, the small ice cream treats, if you're familiar, made a lot of noise, became a really huge sensation on TikTok. I think it was late 2020, around September 2020 or so. Don't quote me on the date. And it's when we identified that, when we saw that we all got together and decided that we really needed to be able to structure what that looks like, to identify where it came from, how did the overall virality unfold, in order to be able to use that as a foundation from which we would build, or at least on top of which we would build our advertising product.
Yeah.
So the way it happened was that it first started to appear when, and usually how it always starts to appear, and I start to draw it out, is when a hashtag usually takes off. So it would be here in the middle, and then at this point, the hashtag would have been easy. It was Little Moons, along with probably a few others. Right, so this is the moment where the phenomenon starts to appear, where it starts to go viral, where we can identify it, and it's visible by by obviously the users and many different parties across the board. And so what we wanted to find is, how did we get to this point initially? And so in trying to structure this sequence of events, let's say, we identified that the first piece, the first part, the first video, which on our platform is very important to identify essentially who's generated a trend or the first early videos. At some point, there was a video that was talking about Little Moons, and essentially this was the creation. This is the instigator the first one that essentially started to, or went into the Little Moons, opened the pack. It can be an unboxing, it can be a review video, it can be anything related to the product at this point. And what happens following that is participation. So is essentially interactions, is other users identifying this product, relating to what's happening in that video, and then duetting it, stitching it, replicating it, or essentially building on top of that trend. In the case of Little Moons specifically, so here we'll call this co-creation.
Yeah.
In the case of Little Moons specifically, what was interesting and the reason it blew up is because initially the first creator was expressing how much they love the product, and then the following few creators were also in that trend. When it really started to blow up, when the co-creation happened, is when users went into the Tesco shops, Tesco and other retailers, only to find the Little Moons aisle empty, precisely because of the initial start of the trend.
Right.
And so that obviously grew the trend exponentially, because there was already the sense of scarcity, because there were so many people eating Little Moons that you wouldn't be able to find them in shop anymore.
Yeah.
And that really blew up the trend. And it's at this point here that we get the really blowing up of the viral hashtag that is Little Moons.
And from there, how did you progress this into a product? Because this is fascinating, right? So we're talking about a brand where a person talked about how much they loved the brand. It blew up, right? This ice cream, there's a whole process about like cooling it down and the whole joy of eating the ice cream. And the brand itself was unaware what's going on, and this blew up. And obviously this is an opportunity for you to think, we could take this further, right? Like, how do we take this from upper funnel to mid funnel to lower funnel and get them going to Little Moon's website and buying the ice cream from the site itself? So how did you talk about that process internally?
Certainly. So first, as you correctly identified, here is the full definition of a full funnel, because in the end there were actual sales conversions happening at the very end of it. So before we go into how that translated into a product, the first part we did on it was a playbook. So that was, once that actually blows up, is that the next step for a brand, there will be two additional steps for a brand. One is to get into the trend, come into the conversation, join the community, and then drop your organic videos onto the platform and join the trend, be part of the conversation.
Yeah.
And then obviously at the very end of it is push that with paid media once you've actually successfully become part of the conversation, which you were already unwittingly. At this point, the idea is to bank on this, is to build on top of it. And in this case, we're talking about Little Moon specifically, which is a brand which has a very specific a brand associated with it. But there are also examples where it's not necessarily the brand. The example of the feta pasta, which went viral thanks to Gigi Hadid or Bella Hadid or a relatively with a model with a large following. It got picked up on by Asda, who actually went in and built a package of all of the ingredients you need to make the feta pasta and sold that as a one packaged product actually in the end. So the jumping on or the participation in this playbook along the whole TikTok trends that are happening isn't necessarily specific to you and your brands, and you don't need your own hashtag, the hashtag of your brand, in order to participate in that. It's a lot more open to interpretation and how in creativity and authenticity your brand can be part of the conversation.
So there's a whole organic process here, and this is the part here we want to talk about, the paid media part, right, which is the product itself.
Correct.
So let's go through that, because that's really important in terms of how you take that user from the upper funnel, mid funnel and lower funnel to an action or an outcome. So can we talk a little bit about that, and I will throw a few questions as well about the data piece.
So in order to conceive and to really think through what that product might look like, we needed to reconcile what we're seeing here, the sequence of events that is somewhat unstructured. This is as structured as we made it, but you realize that in between all of those different aspects is a lot happening that is somewhat hard to track. So we needed to bring the structured vision, the structured view that we had here, and reconcile it with existing marketing frameworks that marketers use in order to decide how to do media planning and to know how to measure, and to try and merge the two. And so where we landed at was that what this was doing is it was completely flipping on its head the marketing funnel, the purchase funnel that we're used to, which is linear and really comes kind of top down. And what's happening here is kind of completely disrupting it. And so we wanted to redefine and find an analogy to the purchase journey that better fit the current sequence that we have here. And what that became is And by the way,
this is not the Meta logo, by the way.
We are going to drop in the comments links to all of the beautifully designed marketing material around this. Please don't take my drawings to be the end all be all on this.
Yeah.
Right. So something like this. Right. Okay. So at the top here we have discovery. So there are 4 pieces to the infinite loop.
Yeah.
Discovery, this is consideration, this is review, and this is participation. And the purchase happens here.
Okay.
And the directions of the arrows is like this, meaning that from discovery to consideration happens a purchase drives a review, with the review comes participation, which is exactly what we're seeing happen here. And then that participation ultimately also drives a purchase. So the arrows, they go in this direction like this. And so what that meant is that the purchase can happen at any time in the funnel, right? There isn't that necessarily linear
So
approach.
it's not a linear funnel, it's more of an infinite loop, effectively.
It's more of an infinite loop, effectively. And so in looking at this infinite loop, we needed to identify at which point, where in this loop does our product need to have an impact. Because on review and participation, the whole value of these is the authenticity and the organic aspect of what the community does.
Yeah.
So we identified that this side here was the community boosting the brand, the product, the trend, and then on this side is where the brand would intervene and accelerate the process, the trend that is going on. And so in looking at this, discovery, consideration, review, participation, with the loop happening on an ongoing, constant basis across brands, across products, across categories, collection, seasonality, it's constantly ongoing. We decided to build the product, or we're focusing at the moment on building the product around this area where the brand can accelerate discovery and consideration. And that is the basis through which we built what we're going to talk about in a bit more detail today, which is our newest product, video shopping ads, that is meant precisely to take all of that upper funnel activity and build predictable, reliable tools for advertisers, for marketers, to turn it into lower funnel conversion and performance marketing.
Okay. All right, so let's map that out, shall we?
Let's do that.
That's fascinating. So, like, this is the area where you focus on in terms of like accelerating an outcome, effectively. But all this other stuff is kind of organic that feeds into this.
Correct.
Right. Okay.
Correct.
So, Samir, let's talk about the product. Let's get it on the whiteboard and go through it.
Absolutely. So, as I said, the insight came from how we identified the organic behavior already happening on the platform. And then we needed to reconcile that with, obviously, the technicals of how the product works, what are the expectations of the market, and what are the current challenges that we're seeing in the industry. So there are 3 main challenges we identified that we also needed to solve for as we built this amazing product that we were working on. The first one is not going to be a surprise to anybody, and that is signals.
Yeah.
Right. In the current state of the industry, moving away from user-centric signals and data and optimization, we needed to account for this current state of affairs and be able to build a product that takes user intent, that redefines slightly user intent, or how we measure it, to take into account the evolving realm of signals. The second one is catalogs, also known as product feeds. So catalogs, both from the sense of the size of them, growing increasingly large, the way that we make sense of them, again, with, on the other hand, limited signals, as well as the fragmentation of the sales channel across the board, is another important piece that we took into account. And the third one, which is a challenge that, to a large extent, perhaps TikTok has brought to the front, which is creative, because the video-first platform that is TikTok does require creative that is different.
Very unique.
Very unique.
I mean, it's native. It's native to your platform.
Exactly. It's native to the platform, and it's something that is both a bit of a challenge, or structurally speaking, to have the resources and the skills in order to build that, but also the opportunity to build something completely new. Faster than your competitors, and grow onto the platform.
So we start with signals?
Yes, let's start with signals. So we're going to start with, let's call it, an advertiser's website or app.
Yeah.
Right? So we're going to call this We're going to call this advertiser or merchant. We'll call it website for the sake of today. It can be an app, right?
Could be anything, yeah.
From the advertiser's website, usually sit on there the product feed that they're using. So every product that happens that is on the website is basically a SKU. It's part of a product feed, a catalog that can be, that obviously is native to the website, but is also connected via any of the product feed partners or via APIs to the rest of the ecosystem in order for those products to appear. So we'll call that the catalog. I've learned that this is the British version of catalog with UE. And then on the other hand, we have obviously everything that is browsing and conversion signals.
Yeah.
And those can be, so this is essentially behavioral signals that are happening on the website that are indicative of users' particular level of interest, intent. The simple version of it is obviously retargeting. If you visit a particular product, then you have expressed intent for that product. So here, either via Pixel on the front end or via a server-to-server integration in the back end, which we call Events API, we'll be passing back the advertiser's first-party signals back to TikTok.
Okay.
So again, obviously, all of this fully GDPR compliant, fully privacy-centric, privacy-first, along with all of the legal terms between us. Our first-party data, which we'll touch on, which is in TikTok signals.
Would the user have to be logged into the website? No. Okay.
Not at all.
Right. Okay.
Not at all. It's the advertiser's first-party data and TikTok's native first-party data essentially being shared on the basis of a legal agreement that is fully GDPR compliant in very similar ways to how it's done across multiple platforms. So this is the advertiser's website across catalog and signals that are the first steps, the two first pieces that we're talking about here. And then on the other hand, we have TikTok itself, right?
Yeah.
So we are here, and we also are able to recognize users a part of different categories and different interest groups in the same way that our algorithm, our For You page algorithm, recognizes interest and intent in different categories. Food talk, clean talk, any other hashtag talk that you may be interested in that categorizes you, is essentially on-site or on-app signals, which are ours, which are first-party to TikTok.
Yeah.
And so basically, at the center of everything here, so from TikTok's the signals on-site, off-site, and the catalog, we land with what is user intent.
Okay.
And so this user intent is again currently, as its function of the current industry's challenges, is the central piece that we are working on as part of this video shopping ads product in order to build, let's say, the most adapted product or the most flexible product to address a user intent measure that is different from how it used to go through the linear purchase funnel and rather sits along this infinite loop that we discussed, right? Which makes it slightly more let's call it trickier to define, and so is one of the main parts that we're working on in terms of building.
So that loop is informing how you segment that user intent, because it's not your traditional funnel, but you have your own sort of framework, if you will, and that has to fit the framework that you're working on. Right.
I don't want to say that the modeling scientist has the loop sitting there.
No, of course not. But they've got points within the loop that they need to kind of activate media against the user, etc.
To an extent, yes, we're trying to identify the different signals and different ways to infer a user's intent along that infinite loop in order to identify their level of propensity to perform a certain action along the purchase journey for a particular advertiser or a particular product category.
Yeah. Okay. So this is interesting. So you're basically taking the first party, the data from the advertiser about a specific user activity in terms of like looking at a product, etc. You're bringing that data and sort of crossing it over with TikTok data, and then you're building a user intent sort of view of a user on the site. So obviously, if this connects then to the organic social stuff, you can activate the campaign straight away. So how does this work in terms of the user across that loop, right? For instance, I'm curious about the type of creative, because as you said, the native creative on TikTok is very specific to TikTok. So do you have to look at where the user is in that specific loop or framework before you can take a specific creative and target it to them.
Absolutely. Yes, you're right on the money, Kieran. So the first thing I'll say is, up until this point, this is a relatively standard operating way for any ad tech company, right? There's nothing here at the moment that is vastly different from how pretty much all companies in the system in the ecosystem do it. The second point is that infinite loop is kind of the human way of understanding what's happening in a data model. And, but obviously the loop itself isn't modeled in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's more being able to identify those triggers. And you're right. Based on all of this and this user intent, typically, historically in the industry, the way this has been used, it has been used to serve dynamic product inside a static template.
Yeah, like a DCO, dynamic creative optimization.
The simplest version of it is retargeting. You land on the page with the red shoes, we serve you back the red shoes.
Not a very satisfying
that is the simplest and the simplest way of it.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's also used for prospecting.
Yes.
When you are able to connect via the catalog the product category. So you may have landed on the red shoes, and I might be showing you the black shoes because they're part of the same category, and that tells me that gives me an insight on the user intent.
Right.
So those, you're right 100%. The dynamic product selection function of user intent is something that has been done for a while.
Yeah.
Where we are right now innovating, or where our product starts to add value to the advertisers, is that we are first doing the dynamic, let's call it creative on one hand.
Yeah.
And the other bit is dynamic destination.
Interesting.
So the dynamic creative is essentially the easiest version of it, as I said, is a product selection on the basis of identifying user intent. There is more coming that we're working on at the moment on the dynamic creative front in a combination of videos and product selection, but I've been told to hold off on this because...
Yeah, that's fine. We'll get to it again when we talk about dynamic
coming
video.
On this
yeah,
bit.
Absolutely.
However, we'll talk about dynamic destination a little bit, and again, on the link below the video, wherever you're watching this, there's beautiful imagery of how this looks better than how
this
I can
is
draw
beautiful,
it. You're loving it, lovely. Dynamic destination is also a function, as we said, of purchase intent, and it's a native instant page that we load on the basis of user intent and our estimate of their propensity to complete an action on the advertiser's website.
Okay.
The instant page would load inside TikTok with a product detail page that is pulled directly from the catalog, along with the images, the description, the prices, the discounts, anything else that we're able.
So that's pulled inside your app.
That is already there because we get all this information from the catalog in order to serve the dynamic creative in any case, right? And so in that case, we would build an instant product landing page so that the user would have an opportunity to browse around and get a bit more detail on the product without having to step out of TikTok and onto the browser, which usually is slightly slower to load, and perhaps, depending on how the advertiser set up their campaign, might not land directly on the product detail page, and is a great experience for somebody who already knows that they're on the way to making the purchase. Yeah. But somebody who's slightly farther away from that purchase might need a bit more of an experience of
So your algo is deciding how far along they are in the process, and they can either get a dynamic creative or they're brought to this dynamic destination, which is literally more information. So as you say, like if you're at the prospecting stage or sort of around there, this algorithm can look at all the signals above here, and then basically serve a page within TikTok showing more information about that product.
Correct, 100%.
Right, okay.
In order to give a bit more information for a user that has expressed some interest, but perhaps not enough to get redirected directly on an external website and complete the purchase.
And obviously then from that process then, is there a call to action there that brings them to the page or to the site? Is that where you're getting the outcome there for the advertiser?
100%. If that intermediary page were to drive enough interest on the part of the user, then the call to action button is there directly to redirect straight to the website and perform that conversion. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. That's fascinating. So like that algorithm actually is again using the infinite loop framework, it just sees where it is in the process and then makes a decision where you should see a dynamic creative or a dynamic destination piece.
Correct.
Okay. In terms of like, we obviously can't take more about the crib, but is there another piece to this? Like, are you constantly ingesting data along the process to kind of make these decisions?
So data ingestion is essentially that, right? This is at this point pretty much static because these are the data sources that we've got at our disposal, and we're not looking for additional data sources in the optimization of this product. So this piece is to a large extent static. The definition of user intent that varies along the way as we see more data and as we see more advertiser come on site. Certainly that is a living, breathing.
So this is your engine for delivering outcomes for advertisers. And this fits nicely into sort of that upper funnel sort of like spontaneous piece. So just curveball here, so man, you probably wouldn't like this question, but is this all sort of waiting to happen? Are you onboarding advertisers with the view of this organic stuff just basically going like that and we're ready to go type thing? Is that the sort of thinking around this?
Certainly. So again, what we described in the previous sequence of events of where there's an original creator that triggers a start to a trend or to a viral phenomenon. This at the very top of the funnel and the organic content that's happening is a huge part of our product teams as well that are building currently branded mission and focused view and a whole host of products that really drive that upper funnel engagement and results. And obviously everything's connected. So any paid activity that is running across the upper funnel essentially drives audiences that we can reuse and then
you can connect that paid and organic piece to this. So like like a big advertiser or an SME or whatever, wherever they are in the sort of like size of the business, can use all of these tools, the back end, and use paid upper funnel, and then also take advantage of the organic stuff that happens serendipitously. Absolutely. It's really a 360 view. There's usually in a marketing team at an advertiser that's working really closely with us. There's an entire organic team that works on producing their own content, but also works very closely with creators that come up with trends and ideas for the brand to really blend into the community in ways that make sense. There is an upper funnel paid marketing team that usually builds everything that's happening at the top, usually any seasonal tentpole moments that we've got going on throughout the year. And there's a lower funnel performance marketing team as well. And in the ideal cases, these teams all talk together and are able to build on top of what each team is doing in order to improve the performance of everyone. So is this product live right now? Have you had much success?
Yes,
can you talk about any sort of case studies? Or?
Yes, the product is currently live. We are in a closed beta. So if you're an advertiser, talk to your TikTok rep.
Yes.
And this, as of today, by the way, whenever we're airing this, by the time you watch this, may be live already. It's currently live. We're seeing really, really strong, promising results in the beginning. Our Pride case study globally, the first case study comes from the UK. Wonder Skin, a cosmetics brand, they're seeing stellar results across the board. They're one of our closest partners. Because we work really closely together and they love to onboard all of our newest products and they're showing the way as to how the product is performing at the moment.
Well, I love getting in the weeds of the ad tech stack, particularly for like big organizations like TikTok. So I really, really appreciate you coming today and talk about it. I look forward to this video creative dynamic. That'll be an interesting one as well.
Absolutely. So, I think at the moment, going into whenever this airs in Q4, there's a few specific kind of general advice that we can give advertisers in order to make this work as best as possible. The first one, the very important one, is the connection here between catalog and signals. So we, in order for this obviously to be as rich as possible, we need the catalog and the signals to speak to each other, meaning that your content ID that is sitting in the catalog or the SKU or however it's called, right? Once a purchase happens on the website, our algorithm would be way stronger if we're able to match this purchase to the specific product that it is inside the catalog versus a generic purchase of a pair of shoes. If we know exactly which product that is, then obviously that feeds the overall virtuous circle in a lot better way.
So the attribution piece is really
correct,
important.
100%. And then the other piece that we'll say is concerning, again, as we said, the size of the catalog growing ever larger. And the idea, particularly in kind of seasonal events such as the Q4 coming up, is to select sub-product sets and to thematize the product sets that we've got. So that can be based on a collection, a category, the best sellers, the
so
products
kind of customizing your catalog for the TikTok user effectively.
Correct, 100%. Right. Because here, as we said, here is a brand video, a large, rich brand video that comes accompanied with basically a carousel of products that are going to appear. And at the moment, obviously, we are building the machine to recognize the product inside the video. Yeah. It's not going to be ready tomorrow, right? This is a vision of how this would work. For at the moment, whichever product or general message is happening in the video, if connected to the products that are appearing in the carousel, will drive much better conversion rate across here.
Okay.
And usually in order to do that, you need smaller product sets rather than a catalog of 100,000 products. It would be very hard to match to the specific video. Yeah. So selecting a product set of a collection or category of product or the products on discount, on sale, whatever makes sense and relates to the video will drive the best results in there.
It's going to be some interesting stuff coming up.
Yes, absolutely.
So one last question, Samir. We'll talk about like the ease of use, self-service, because obviously, there's a lot of complexity here. It's simple to us ad tech people, but in terms of a buyer, talk about how easy it is, because like you've built this product for buyers to make it easy for them to buy across the TikTok platform.
Yeah, certainly. So all of what we described is basically how the sausage is made. But at the very top on the user interface, it's called product sales. Yeah. And it's a single objective in our TikTok Ads Manager that is quite self-explanatory. Yeah. If you're trying to sell physical products on your website or app, this is the product for you. This is the objective that you will find in the TikTok Ads Manager. Yeah. And this entire flow is essentially everything happening in the back end. There's very little to worry about. Once the catalog and the signals are plugged in, and the creative. Catalog, signals, and creative are the three things, as we said, at the very top. From there, product sales is a single objective that you click on in the Ads Manager and then go through ad creation flow similar to how you've got it.
Of course, you've got scale.
We've got scale. We've got 28 billion views on the hashtag TikTok made me buy it globally and obviously constantly growing. So the results are there, the users are there, the intention to make purchases on the basis of discovery on TikTok is there. The way to do it is extremely simple. It's product sales, one simple objective in the Ads Manager, and obviously the TikTok team is available to help you, sales, account managers, and the rest of the teams available to help any advertiser who wants to jump on.
Samir, thanks for your time today. That was fascinating run through the new product, and it's interesting to hear how a company who is video focused joining that loop. So thank you for your time today.
We'll come back next year and I'll tell you how it's been going.
I look forward to that. And that was Trader Talk TV, and we will see you next time.